this is from Forbes breaking news. This says Josh Hawley calls BS on the idea that the DOJ and FBI don't know who the Epstein clients are. Hard to believe. That this is, if you guys don't remember, this is on the heels of the United States government basically covering for all of Epstein's clients by lying and saying that the Epstein list doesn't exist. And generally speaking, when I make a statement like that, I'll try to couch it in saying like allegedly or something like that. But I am quite certain that the Epstein client list exists because people in the federal government were saying that it existed before all of a sudden saying no, it doesn't exist anymore. And there have been rumors and rumblings that the United States of America doesn't have the only copy of the list. So this means that even if the United States decided to destroy the evidence for whatever reason, it is in somebody else's hands. Now, in my opinion, I think that this information is not being disclosed to the American people in large part because it implicates Donald Trump in some way. Donald Trump himself has actually sort of hinted at this by saying, oh, this is cooked up by the Democrats to make me look bad. Well, why would it make you look bad if you're not implicated? I think is a very important question. Also, Elon Musk literally said about a month or two ago, hey, the Epstein client list is not going to come out because Donald Trump is on it. So this is, not making Trump look very good. Even if all those rumors are false, right? It could be very true that either Donald Trump was not on the client list or Donald Trump was on the list and he didn't do anything particularly nefarious. He just flew on one of Epstein's planes once or twice and that was it. It's still really bad to be protecting scores and scores and scores of actual abusers, people who assaulted children. Is a horrible thing to do, and I think arguably effectually even worse than actually committing the abuse if you're talking about the amount of people that it affects and all that, because this is huge, right? There are many people on that list. But anyways, this is Josh Hawley's response to this whole situation.
Hey, how you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. You have this bill that you
don't get hurt, guys.
To reverse these cuts on Medicaid. Why introduce this bill when you just voted to enact these cuts?
Oh, well, I said I would. I mean, I said that I would support the bill because it enacts work requirements, which I supported and still do support, that it prevents illegals from getting Medicaid, which I think is the right thing. It expands health care. We're talking about now the big, beautiful bill. It expands health care coverage in my state and other states for hundreds of thousands of people under the RICA program, which is my bill. So I liked all of that, but there are aspects of it I didn't like, and I think these future cuts to hospitals with Medicaid is a mistake. So I said when I voted for it, I said I'm going to try to reverse these. That's exactly what I'm doing.
But couldn't you have done that while the bill was being negotiated rather than after the fact?
No, manifestly not. I mean, it's.
Well, one could argue that he tried, right? There's a reason why it took like a month and a half for this one omnibus spending bill to get negotiated, trimmed down, and approved by the halls of Congress, right? So I think it's a little bit unfair to be like, oh, you should have tried. Like, bro, literally everyone was trying to get the bill to look exactly the way they wanted, and that's why it took so long for everything to get passed.
Sadly, mono, I mean, with legislation, sometimes you can get some things and not other things. So we were able to accomplish a lot. There's a lot of things I like. Most of the things. I mean, the tax cuts in the bill I think are good for workers, the blue collar tax cuts. But I didn't like the hospital cuts, and we were able to delay them and able to get more funding for hospitals in the short term. But I want to fund hospitals permanently, and I don't want any of those cuts to go into effect.
And if your bill goes into law, what's the impact going to be on your state?
If my bill?
No. Sorry, if the cuts go into law and your new bill does not go into law to push back on these cuts, what is the impact going to be?
Yeah, the good news is because of what we were able to negotiate, to your point, about, or in the big beautiful bill, Missouri's actually getting $1 billion more in hospital funding over the next 4 years. So what my new bill would do is double that. It would continue the increase in funding, and it would prevent any future changes. Now, you're asking what would happen for my states in 2030. The answer is I don't know, because Missouri may well have to change its funding formula. So I don't know the answer to that. But my view is I don't want to take any chances. I don't want rural hospitals in particular adversely affected at all. And I said that I would do everything I can to support it. That's what I'm doing.
Does this bill have momentum or support from your colleagues?
I hope so. We'll see. I mean, listen, this is my consistent position on this, which is that I don't think we should reduce funding for rural hospitals. I voted for the big, beautiful bill in part because it includes an increase for for rural hospital funding over the next 4 and 5 years. Let's make that permanent and let's extend it.
What do you think of the polls that show that this bill is deeply unpopular?
Well, I just had what I think so far is the only rally sort of for the bill, Mondo, that you can correct me on this, maybe I'm wrong about this. I think I'm the only senator who has done a big event on the bill because the nuclear radiation compensation program that is in this bill is hugely popular in the state of Missouri. So we just had a huge rally, bipartisan.
Well, the tricky thing about this is the bill has things that are very popular in it and things that are very unpopular. So if you're looking at the bill and you hate Donald Trump, then you're going to be like, oh, this bill is garbage because it's got this stuff in it. But if you are a fan of Donald Trump, you're going to be like, oh, well, this bill is fantastic. It's the best bill in the world. It's the best bill the Congress has ever passed because it's got a lot of things that you support, especially things that, outside of a Trump administration, you wouldn't necessarily think or even dream would occur, like cutting Medicaid spending for illegals, for example. That's not anything that one would expect the do-nothing Republicans of yore to actually do. So, I can understand both sides especially if you have legitimate concerns about what's in the bill, or legitimate things in the bill that you like. I completely understand one way or the other, loving or hating the bill. I think it's the problem with omnibus bills. I just hate omnibus bills in general because you're literally voting for everything or nothing. And I hate that. I would say let's just vote no until you're able to vote in an itemized fashion in the way that Mike Johnson lied about being able to allow those in Congress to be able to do.
My Democrat friends were there, celebrating this. So, listen, I think that there's a lot in this bill to like, and the things that we need to fix, we'll fix.
Senator, on the issue of rescissions,
yes.
Some of your colleagues, the ones who voted no yesterday, and even Majority Leader Thune has expressed some frustration with OMB that they haven't given specific things that these cuts are going to claw back on. Do you share any of those concerns? Do you think OMB should be more specific about what the money they're going to pull back is going to be taken from?
Well, I'm sure they're trying to be as specific as they can. I will say some of my colleagues had the advantage here. A number of them were here for earlier rescissions packages. So I've heard a lot from my colleagues about how this rescission package differs from earlier ones. I just, to be honest with you, I just don't have that context. So that may be true, and I can understand the frustration. I think at the end of the day, I support the rescissions package. In fact, I'd like to make it bigger. I'd like to cut $9 billion, that's a B, billion dollars out of Green New Deal funding that's going to a private corporation in my state that's taking farmers' land. So if you gave, unfortunately the rules don't allow me to do it, but if you gave me my druthers, I'd try to add some stuff to this bill, so I'm going to vote for it.
So do you think that the Judiciary Committee should probe this Epstein matter? And what do you think about the administration's handling it?
Well, listen, I thought what the president said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was right. I think he said the Attorney General ought to release whatever she thinks is credible and appropriate to release. That is exactly the right answer, I think. I mean, I think she should do that. I think, and my view is...
She has not released enough, in your opinion.
Well, I think here's what I think is maybe a little difficult to believe. The idea that DOJ and the FBI, who prosecuted cases related to this, don't have any idea who Epstein's clients were and that he had no record of it, of the clients. I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe. I mean, my view is make public everything you can make public. That's what the president said yesterday. I think that would be, they want my advice and they don't, but if DOJ were asking for my advice, that's what I would say. Make it all public. Make as much public as you can. Listen, I've been an attorney general in the state of Missouri. I understand, like, these agencies often, they're always pressuring you as the prosecutor. They're always saying, please don't make this public. Please don't make this public. I just think whenever you can, so long as it doesn't interfere with prosecution, I think you ought to make it public. And in this case, I just say, let's make it all public and get it out there.
I agree.
Should the Judiciary Committee investigate this?
I saw that, I never know how to pronounce her name, but his associate, Epstein's associate, Maxwell, help me out. What's her first name? Ghislaine. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I think she said that she would be willing to testify. I mean, why not? Why not put her under oath? Now,
because it would implicate Donald Trump and his friends or whatever.
The Judiciary Committee could put her under oath and testify. I'd be fine with that. I mean, I think that would. She apparently, she's being prosecuted. I think she has an appeal pending. So, I think that could be a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yes. Yeah,
and that's an entirely reasonable response and reaction, both to the big beautiful bill as well as to the whole situation that's going on with the Epstein Files and the Epstein list. Now, Josh Hawley has long time, maybe not long, but for quite a while, he has been one of my favorite Republicans. He's one of my favorite Republicans in large part because he's never going to run for president because he doesn't want to be president of the United States. I think that is a really good sign that he doesn't want that level of power. But just the way that he has sort of held his own in various committees, the way that he has stood up for conservative principles, in a way that a lot of Republicans nowadays just don't do. I've always found that to be relatively impressive, and he's always going to be like top 10 living Republicans is in sitting office today. Of course, I'm not surprised that he's giving these measured and reasonable responses because that's the type of thing that Josh Hawley does. But yeah, if you want to watch or like check out or follow the statements of a Republican in office, look up Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley's pretty cool. He's generally one of the more reasonable of Republicans. So I definitely would consider myself a Josh Hawley fan. His take on Epstein is completely correct as well. We need to release pretty much everything that we can release without sort of jeopardizing, of course, victims, endangering other people who might have been peripherally involved but not involved in any of the heinous crimes that, of course, the Epstein list is related to. All of that stuff, it needs to be made public. I think a simple list can be made public, right? But very clearly the Trump administration is afraid of something, which is horrible and is a massive red flag. But that's just the situation that we find ourselves in.